Let me say this as clearly as possible. You do not want God to speak. You want God to agree with you. That's it. That's the whole thing. We can almost end the video there. You say you're waiting on God. You say you're praying for clarity. You say you just want to hear his voice. No, you don't. If God answered you right now and told you something you didn't want to hear, you would not feel comforted. You would feel irritated. You would feel disappointed. You would start negotiating because what you actually want is confirmation, not direction. You already made the decision. You already picked the relationship. You already picked the career move. You already decided how the story should go. And now you want heaven to stamp it and say, approved. And when that stamp doesn't come, suddenly God is silent. No, he's not silent. He's just not cooperating with your plan. Let's be honest. When do you feel like God is the most silent? It's not when life is calm. It's not when things are working out. It's when something isn't going your way. The relationship is unstable. The job application didn't go through. The opportunity fell apart. The person you like is acting distant. The future feels uncertain. Now you're seeking God. Now you're praying extra hard. Now you're fasting. Now you're playing worship music, like you're starring in a spiritual documentary about yourself. But you're not seeking intimacy. You're trying to control the outcome. There's a difference. You don't want God. You want the result. And when the result doesn't show up on your timeline, you call it silence. Here's the uncomfortable part. You're addicted to control. Yes, addicted. You like knowing what's going on. You like predicting outcomes. You like having backup plans. You like feeling prepared. You like thinking that if you pray more, think more, plan more, worry more, you can somehow tilt the universe in your favor. Control makes you feel safe, even if it's fake safety. And when God doesn't immediately give you clarity, he takes away your illusion of control. And that feels terrifying, not because he left you, but because now you're exposed. You're sitting there without updates, without guarantees, without a timeline, without reassurance, just trust. And you hate that. Let's go deeper. Some of your prayers aren't prayers, they're negotiations. God, if you fix this, I'll change. Will you? Or will you go right back to normal the moment it's resolved? God, if you bring them back, I'll trust you. So your trust depends on whether you get what you want. God, if this door opens, I'll follow you. But only that door. Not the uncomfortable one. Not the one that bruises your ego. Not the one that requires humility. Not the one that pays less. Not the one that stretches you. You say you want God's will, but you already drafted it. You just want him to sign it. And when he doesn't sign it, you feel abandoned. But let me say this clearly. You're not struggling with God's silence. You're struggling with not being in control. Silence feels loud when your ego is threatened. When you don't know what's happening, your brain starts panicking. You replay conversations. You imagine worst-case scenarios. You build backup plans. You overanalyze text messages. You check your email 10 times. You pray again, but now it's anxious prayer, not surrendered prayer. Not because God left, because you don't know how to sit still without steering the wheel. That's the real issue. You call it spiritual confusion. It's not. It's discomfort. And here's the thing nobody wants to admit. If God answered every prayer instantly, you would never mature. You would use him. You wouldn't need faith. You'd need customer service. Hi, God. Yes, I ordered peace, success, and clarity. It was supposed to arrive by Friday. That's not a relationship. That's a transaction. Silence forces you to confront something ugly about yourself. Do you trust God or do you trust outcomes? Because those are not the same thing. Anyone can praise God when the job comes through. Anyone can worship when the relationship is restored. Anyone can talk about faith when the door opens, but when nothing moves, when the situation doesn't shift, when heaven doesn't respond on your schedule, that's when your real faith shows up, or doesn't. Let me talk to you like an older brother who is tired of watching you spiral. You're not mad at God. You're mad that you can't control the situation. You're not confused about his voice. You're uncomfortable with uncertainty. You're not spiritually lost. You're impatient. And impatience dressed up as spirituality is still impatience. You don't want to surrender. You want reassurance. But surrender is the entire point. Faith was never about having control. It was about letting go of it. And yes, that feels weak at first. It feels like free falling. It feels like losing leverage. It feels like you're not doing enough. But maybe you're not supposed to do anything right now. Maybe you're supposed to trust. And I know you don't like that word because trust feels passive. It feels slow. It feels unproductive. But sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is stop trying to force the outcome. Stop trying to decode every sign. Stop trying to micromanage God. Stop trying to rush maturity. You want growth? Growth doesn't happen in noise. It happens in waiting. You want depth? Depth doesn't come from instant answers. It comes from wrestling with uncertainty and choosing faith anyway. So the next time you say, God feels silent, don't start accusing. Start examining. If nothing changes externally, can you still trust internally? If the relationship doesn't come back, can you still believe he's good? If the job doesn't happen, can you still believe he's leading you? If the plan falls apart, can you still believe you're not abandoned? Because that's the real test. Maybe silence isn't punishment. Maybe it's preparation. Maybe he's not speaking the way you want because he's teaching you to let go of control first. And once you loosen your grip, once you stop trying to force the narrative, once you stop treating God like a confirmation machine, you might realize something uncomfortable but freeing at the same time. He was never silent. He just wasn't saying yes.